All right, we're skipping the intro. We got to get right into it. This is probably the biggest patch that we've seen, and that's saying a lot considering the previous patch that completely redesigned all the talents. But some very, very important design decisions have been implemented in the latest build for Blood Death Knights, and we have to talk about them. The one that you might notice the most is a shifting of the talent tree. That's really not anything to discuss. I am going to discuss it a little bit at the end of the video. But there are some other changes that we have to focus on for this video, okay? And some of them probably went under your radar, okay? Number one, kind of probably the smallest out of all the things that are worth discussing, is Death Chain has been nerfed pretty substantially. Somebody brought it up in a previous video, but it was a talent, it's an honored talent, that is, PvP talent. Death Chain chains 3 enemies together, dealing blah, blah, blah damage, and causing 25% of all damage taken to be received by others in the chain, lasting for 15 seconds. That's how it used to read. It now reads 20% of all damage to be received by others in chain, lasting for 10 seconds. So this was something that I brought up in the previous video, and somebody mentioned how overpowered it was for world content. So I'm not surprised to see it nerfed. Seems pretty balanced now that they nerfed it in that way. So that's a really, really interesting change there. It makes you think that they're actually actively thinking about war mode, and that's very good. But what I think a lot of people missed in this build are some of the most important Blood Death Knight changes you will ever see, okay? Now, first things, again, the second most irrelevant one, but still extremely important. You'll notice here on this button, there's this S6 button, the Shift 6 button. I had an ability. Now that ability, that was called Reap Magic. Used to be called Thoughtseize, and now it's gone. It's just gone. It's been removed without anybody saying a word about it, and frankly, Wowhead doesn't even have a thing about it. I'm really surprised by this. But oh, you know what? It's not gone. It's been given to Demon Hunters. It's been given to Demon Hunters. 10-second cooldown. And guess what? There's no requirement on it. It's just a 10-second CD. Consumes 1 beneficial magic effect from the target, removing it, granting you either 20 Fury if you're Havoc, 20 Vengeance, 20 Pain if you're Vengeance. So this is a massive buff to Vengeance Demon Hunter. Immediately makes me more interested in playing them. Frankly, probably going to start leveling one because of this and some other changes that happen in this build. But this isn't a Demon Hunter video. This is a video about the Blood Death Knight. Now, the reason that this is so important to me is because if you played during Warlords of Draenor, you will know how vastly impactful the ability Dark Simulacrum was. It was frankly one of the most overpowered spells ever in the entire game from a tanking perspective. And if you actually did WoD CMs, you would know that you could effectively solo the boss. And I mean, I don't even mean like solo it like you might do now where it takes you 20 minutes. I mean, kill the boss in a minute with 1 spell, okay? And that's partially because of how challenge mode scaling was. It was vastly borked, however you want to say it. It was not working very well in challenge mode under a scaling environment. So I figured, you know, it could stay in the game. And once, you know, Legion was, you know, you're not getting scaled down anymore. So these spells aren't hitting you for 500% of your health. You're not able to solo bosses with it. I was expecting it to stay, okay? Let's put it that way. If you watched my Legion coverage on Blood Death Knight, it was the reason that I was so disappointed with what happened with Blood Death Knight. So, flash forward into probably like February 2018, Blizzard makes a post saying, we're going to be putting a crazy new spell in the game. Oh, it's going to be a crazy new spell. It's going to be a crazy new spell, and it's going to give you the ability to steal stuff from targets again, just like Dark Simulacrum. That ability was Thoughtseize. I got into the alpha about 2 builds in. Thoughtseize was pretty cool. I have a bunch of videos where I was using it early on, stealing big shields, stealing other cool things in dungeons. I was very satisfied with the spell. Then about 5 builds in total, they changed it to Reap Magic. Reap Magic instead just removed a magical effect and gave you runic power. It felt like a really nice thing to do as a Blood Death Knight, and it was a very nice compliment to the fact that we were having such problems with, you know, with having the proper runic power needed. And now it's gone. Outright removed without any discussion, compensation. I don't know what to say about it. I really don't. I'm really upset by it. But like I said, this is just me having an emotional attachment to Dark Simulacrum, which is clearly never returning to PvE. It's a PvP talent, but yeah, it's not obviously going to work out. So I don't know. I'm pretty upset by that. I don't know what to think. I'd love to hear your guys' thoughts on the fact that not only, so like I said, it was removed from Blood DK, given to Demon Hunters. All Demon Hunters, all DKs had it. All Demon Hunters now have it. But predominantly in terms of tank balance, you know, I have to look at it objectively. I think this was probably a pretty good choice. I still feel like Blood DK has way too many tools in 5-mans. They lost a lot of them, but what we're going to talk about next is gonna really it's gonna make them very strong again. So, you know, it's hard to say that this wasn't the right choice. So the other thing that you might have missed is there are now 2 new Azerite traits for the Blood Death Knight. Okay, and one of them, actually, let's start with this one. We're gonna start with one called Bones of the Damned. This is an ominous name. Merorend has a chance to grant an extra charge of Bone Shield. Bone Shield increases your armor by 39. I don't know if that number is placeholder, if that's staying that way. 39, abysmally small. I don't know what the point of that is, but regardless, take it in theory. It's going to increase the armor you have per Bone Shield, presumably stacking up multiple times. I don't know. We'll see. But the fact that now Merorend has a chance to grant an extra charge of Bone Shield. So I made a thread on this, okay? In the description is a thread on the alpha forum. So if you have alpha access, I would really, really, really appreciate a discussion on this topic, okay? Typically, I would ask you guys to say like, oh, what are your thoughts on this in the comments, which I would love to have as well. But this thread is very important to me because there's a very big problem with Blood Death Knight, one that needs to be addressed. And I think it is being addressed with these. I'm not sure. I don't know enough about them, and I need your guys' thoughts on them. And the best way to give that thought is in the public forum where Blizzard could potentially read our concerns, our interests, answer it, and maybe we get a solution, culminative, you know, like a culminative solution to the problem as a community instead of just on YouTube, okay? But anyway, if this works the way I think it works, if you have, don't forget, you can stack these. Okay, this is something that I posted about in the forum post there, because I think a lot of people forget that. You can get up to 3 of these, presumably. If everything works the way it appears to work on the alpha or the beta now, you're going to be able to get 3. So that means, to me, when I read this, Merorend has 3 chances to grant 3 extra charges of Bone Shield. Bone Shield increases your armor by 100 and whatever it would be. Is that true? Does that work that way? I don't know. I have never had multiple of the same trait. I mean, look, the gear I have here doesn't even work. Look at this. It doesn't even have things. So I don't know. It's hard to test. I'm not sure when are we going to be able to test this? I don't really know. But at this point, if you guys have any precedent, maybe other classes, other, you know, cloth armor, plate, you know, instead of plate, something else is working better. You guys know more about it. I need to hear your guys' thoughts on this. I have an entire post, like I said, detailing the problems or the, you know, the concerns I have with these 2 pieces. But I need to know if, you know, there's 3 operative points here. Merorend grants potentially 1 or 2 or 3 chances if you have 3 of them. I don't know. Or 1 or 2 or 3 extra charges of Bone Shield. Does it work like that? Or is it only ever going to be, if you have any of these equipped, Merorend now has an extra chance to grant an extra charge of Bone Shield. That's it. There's only ever going to be 1 chance and 1 extra charge of Bone Shield. But the increase in armor is going to be tripled. You know, I don't know. I don't know how it works. But when they announced that you are going to be able to stack them to get cumulative effects, that was a really big announcement, okay? Now, the final thing we're going to talk about here, which has the strength of 1,000 suns, if you ask me, Eternal Rune Weapon. Just hearing the word Eternal Rune Weapon makes me so happy. It's such a good idea. I actually, like I said, at first glance, if it works the way I think, this solves all the problems that I detailed in this thread. And I'm going to tell you why. Dancing Rune Weapon grants you 39 strength. So first of all, that was not a problem that I had with the thing, but somebody brought it up that any ability that was not on the global before and is on the global now should immediately grant you power without any other reactionary ability. So that solves that. That's not a problem that I consider something that I need to worry about, but it makes sense, right? So Dancing Rune Weapon grants you 39 strength, and each rune spent increases its duration by 0.5 seconds up to a maximum of 5 seconds. Okay, so now we have to talk about this again. Like I said, I don't know exactly how this works, so if you do, please let me know. But regardless, 39 strength, that's pretty cool. Now, obviously, 39 strength is better than 39 armor. Still an incredibly small number. I mean, let's see how much strength I actually have right now. I have 4,000 strength, so that's terrible. Again, assuming that that has something to do with, you know, there'll be a higher level of this as you go up. Maybe in Mythic Raid, it'll be 309 strength, something like that. I'm not really sure. But regardless, if you have 3 of these, Dancing Rune Weapon granting you a lot of strength, very generous. I mean, it's very generous if you ask me. I think that alone would make this trait pretty attractive. But the fact that each rune spent is going to increase the duration of the ability, ironically, kind of something that was similar to Vengeance Demon Hunter, a pretty important ability in Vengeance Demon Hunter land. But yeah, so now with this Eternal Rune Weapon, now one thing to note, on the Wowhead notes that are going to be in the description, it states each rune spent increases its duration by 1 second. But if you actually click on the spell, the Data Mine spell, it says 0.5 seconds. So I don't know what to think. Probably 0.5 seconds seems more realistic, because obviously immediately after popping Dancing Rune Weapon, you're going to be getting at least 2 seconds, right? 2 back-to-back Marrow Rends. That's 4 runes total. So that's at least 2 seconds added on, which alone makes up for it, you know? Takes it to 10 seconds. Effectively, like after you use those 2 globals, you still have 8 seconds of Rune Weapon. You're able to get some Blood Boils out, potentially use, you know, Rune Strike, get some more runes, use even more Heart Strikes, drop Death and Decay, you know, whatever. However it works, you're going to be extending this. So again, the question I'm looking to answer here is, will it, if you have 3 of these, will it, each rune spent increase its duration by 0.5 times 3, right? Will that happen? Or will it also increase its maximum of 5 seconds additive to the previous? So for example, if we have 3 of these, will it be Dancing Rune Weapon grants you 39 times 3 strength, and each rune spent increases your duration by 0.5 times 3 seconds, up to a maximum of 5 times 3 seconds. One of these probably isn't going to happen, and I assume it's up to a maximum, but I don't know how it works. I don't know if they just stack, if they just give you the exact same thing, or if up to a maximum is like a hard definitive value that no matter how many of these you have, you're never going to increase it by more than 5 seconds. That's the big swing here, and that's where we have to worry. If you cannot increase it by more than 5 seconds, this isn't very good. But if you can increase it by up to 15 seconds with 3 of these, then we basically are back to relics in BFA, and that is outstanding in my book, because Dance of Darkness was probably the most interesting thing that happened to Blood Death Knight the entire expansion. That's really saying something. Being able to have a 22 second Dancing Rune Weapon, yeah, that's pretty good. Okay, so if you can do that again in BFA with 3 of these Azerite traits, yeah, I'm going to be very excited. So anyway, if any of you guys know anything about that, I'd love to hear it. But again, if you can post in that thread, I would very much like to hear your opinions, not only on what we're talking about here today, but, you know, there's a lot of discussion in that thread in general, and hopefully you guys can contribute to it, because it's something that doesn't seem like many people are active. I can't seem to get people to actually post in that thread, so I'm kind of confused by that. But I think Dancing Rune Weapon is an operative part of the Blood Death Knight, and if the strength is not there, then we're going to have some problems in the next expansion. So anyway, the final thing that we're going to talk about today is the talent shuffle. So if you haven't been paying attention, 58, 60, and 75 tiers have all shuffled. I'm not exactly, I don't know. It doesn't really matter. All I know is the 75 tier used to be in the 60 tier, and I don't know. It doesn't even really matter. I think 58 used to be 75, but one way or the other, they're different, okay? And like I said, that's not going to impact you at all. People are reacting to this as if it's something, which is kind of surprising to me, but really the only thing that it's something for is if you're leveling. And this is actually pretty interesting, because when you're level 60, you know, you basically start at level 60. Obviously, you don't start at 60, but you pretty much start at 60. Once you start playing a Death Knight for the first time, you're going to have the first 4 tiers of traits. That's it. Then you're not going to get another one until 75. And another one at 75 is the movement one. So it's kind of strange that they got rid of the movement one, but added all the power ones to this tier. And I'm not really sure if that's important or if anybody should care about this, but it does strike me as interesting, because, you know, with Tombstone and potentially Rune Tab, Barrier, whatever you want to use at low level this could really actually help the leveling process. I think Blood DK is kind of weak right now, low level stuff. I've never actually leveled the Blood DK. I leveled it one time, and that was in Cataclysm. That was the last time I played Blood DK. So I've never actually played one at low level. I did it a little bit on the PTR for 735, but yeah, realistically things have changed a lot. So hey, maybe someday we'll actually be able to make sub-max level characters on the alpha. Wouldn't that be nice? Maybe we'll be able to transfer our own characters to the beta. That would be pretty good, wouldn't it? Maybe by 2019 that'll be possible. But anyway, that's everything. So I'd love to hear your thoughts on these new Azerite powers. I think, without question, this build has made some of the biggest changes to the paradigm Blood Death Knight is going to exist within, and I just need to know how it's going to exist. I don't actually know how the stacking of Azerite powers work, so if you guys do know more, I'd love to hear your thoughts, and again, I'd love to see you in the post that I made on the official forums there. So thanks for watching, and we will see you guys in the next one.